Okay, the Congress that came to Nigeria here are in big panic because the report they gave to Trump is not what was being tutored in Nigeria. And from what is being reported now, I think Rally Moore and the other Congress member, the international bodies, organization are not happy with the report they gave to Trump because presently this security is becoming much worse. Churches are being destroyed. People can no longer still go to their farm. And with this, it's as if the division of Nigeria is inevitable because the insecurity in Nigeria is becoming much worse. What's your take as regards Donald Trump rejecting the report that US Congress actually submitted to him?
I just want to discuss about the video you have just watched. You know, where the international community actually had a brief conference and a summit where the issue of the Fulani jihadist activities in Nigeria were briefly, you know, actually discussed. You know, yes, in that discussion, it boils down to, you know, what Rally Moore was actually, you know, trying to put down as in the report. You know, but I can tell you that it is the decision of the president himself, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to Donald Trump to look into. I'm talking about Donald Trump, not Tinubu, please. Sorry for that misconception. You know, I'm talking about Donald Trump himself. You know, the report has been officially put on his table, according to Rally Moore, and some of the pieces we are able to get from that report clearly show that we are conditions that we are actually put in place, especially when it comes to Sharia law, are totally abolished from the Nigerian constitution. I can tell you, if you look at Nigerian constitution very well, you know, Nigerian constitution as a nation is being tailored by people who have the motive and characteristics of Sharia in them, and that is why that constitution was all about Sharia, all about Islam. You know, you can look at the number of the Muslim that were mentioned in that constitution. Look at how many times, you know, Christianity was actually mentioned. Then look at how many times Sharia was also mentioned in Nigerian constitution. So it tells you a lot of things, you know. But Rally Moore himself, why these people are saying that they are going to reject Rally Moore's report, should be totally rejected, and they were giving instances, the reason why we cannot cohabit, either by omission or by commission, that after some time, you know, they will return back to square one, and the security challenges will definitely continue. And at that point, we might not have a sincere world leaders as what we have now. So it becomes a very serious, yes, it becomes a very serious issue, you know, for the future of Christians in Nigeria. Let me give you an instance. Look at what happened in Afghanistan. You know, look at what happened in during the days of Arafat. You know, look at other countries where they were allowed to be given a little space. Just stay here for say why. Okay, we have agreed on a peace arrangement. Okay, let me even take you to the reality on ground. You know, in 1969 or thereabout, when the war actually ended, and Philip Effiong, there was a ceasefire. You know, that they are now going to return back to, you know, peaceful coexistence. Years after, we saw it very clearly that these people has actually rearmed again and started advancing. And those are the things the international community are saying now. No, with this experience, we cannot propose such report before Donald Trump. We are a situation where Rally Moore is saying that, you know, we can cohabit if America continue to fight insurgency in Nigeria militarily and otherwise, we can still be in the same but let us do away with anything that has to do with blasphemy, you know, Sharia, and of course total abolishment of, you know. But the Northerners has actually replied him and told him, and very clearly, that Nigeria is an Islamic nation. We hear that in very clearly from Sultan of Sokoto. We hear it very clearly from their spokesperson, you know, from the north. You know, just a few of them are already divided on that ground, because some of them believe that, you know, Biafra is a legitimate thing, you know. But we cannot try to trust these people, whether they are pro-diplomatic or non-diplomatic, with their statement or not. It can never be trusted because history has shown that after some time, and that's what Donald Trump is trying to do in Iran when they are calling for ceasefire. He said no ceasefire, because he doesn't want a situation where this type of thing, after some time, we are back to square one. We are back to Iran now, trying to see or stop them from nuclear armament and other nuclear weapon acquiring, enriching uranium and other. That this thing must be solved once and for all. And that's why we are saying that, earlier before now, Gradimo was talking about, options. We don't know the decision of the United States of America at that point, whether that report was actually to get the world to understand, there's already a situation since Nigeria is now a country of a particular concern. But it looks as if the leaders of Nigeria presently does not want to toe the line. The Middle Belt have distanced themselves from the north, and we are seeing internal struggle within the Biafran, geopolitical zone, as some people that were planted and rooted by the Fulanis are questioning the rationale for that. But it is left for the world, because I know very clearly there's no nation in this world without ethnic nationalities. So that's the wisdom of this thing. If they feel that there can be a Christian state nation, that it will be seen as a safety for all the persecuted Christians in Nigeria, for them to have their own separate, a nation where they can run to and be safe. I think what is the meaning of now saying, we can coexist with American state? Another president can come from America and say that he's withdrawing troops from Nigeria. Then look at the kind of policies that Obama put in place, that today Americans are dying in the Middle East because as a result of that. Today America is in war in the Middle East because of certain decisions taken by Obama. You went as far as empowering or funding terrorism, Hamas, Hezbollah in the Middle East with over 1.7 billion US dollars, under Obama, and look at the situation now. And that is what this international community are saying now, that is a history have shown we cannot continue like this, or else the entire Igbo race, which has always been the target, will be totally wiped away or possibly conquered or Islamized through their governors, through their senators, through their local government chairmen, and of course, through the continuous instrument of force, especially the army and other, who are already targeting Igbo communities, who are setting them on fire, killing as they want, because they feel that yes, it is the Fulani government that is running Nigeria currently now, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. The Igbo politicians seem to be very weak at this point in time, because they are the one that were actually planted, but they were planted there by the Fulani to do the building, and that is what you are seeing very clearly. That it came to a point where Gumi said he's going to arm the federal government should arm Igbos, to attack Igbo people, and that's the only way they can conquer IPOB. You can see all manner of narratives, but nobody is doing that. We are not seeing that happening, in the north. The way they are interested to make sure that every structure that has, of which is southeast stands is being, attacked and possibly collapse for them to have their way at the end of the day. And that is why there's a national and international cry in that regard, that U.S. government should look at it critically, or that we cannot cohabit. And if we continue to cohabit, and that's why they said, Somalia will be better, than Nigeria. Rwanda will be better than Nigeria. And the United Nations, the world leaders, they said will not want to see just such a situation actually take place in Nigeria. And that is why everybody is saying that the only way out is peaceful, separation. And the Northerners are saying, that the Igbos are not going anywhere, whether US like it or not. I don't know what that actually means to the US government and other world leaders in that regard, whether there's going to be resistance or a change of opinion in that regard, or they're going to explore unnecessary options to make sure that everything come to be. But what we are saying is, at this point in time, what does the Northerners actually want in Nigeria? Why are they now moving from their own territory to other territories? What is their mission? What is their vision? What the question, we can pretend over the answers and the response of what that thing actually means in the real sense of it. But we know that the reality is that, the only target are the Igbos. And that is why you are seeing they are busy creating so much divisions among Igbo communities in the old Eastern Bloc. They are doing everything to make sure there is crisis up and down, planting. Imagine a situation where the region has actually rejected anything that has to do with joining Nigerian army. The Nigerian army are begging, and they're saying it very clearly. Without the Igbo youth in the Nigerian army, there will be no resilience. That these people are creating, they can take decision on their own, go up with them, they can maneuver and give the credit at the end of the day, But since there's no Igbos again in the military has continued to collapse. It tells you we are the salt of this earth, we are the salt of this nation. Without us, no taste. And that is the clear picture of it, But we want a situation where these Northerners will answer these questions, and of course, let us also answer our own questions so that they can actually live and do their own thing the way they want. Since they are insisting that everybody must be on Sharia, and people are saying no, we cannot be under Sharia law or whatever you call it. At the end of the day, it's better we go on our own way and do our own thing. We wanted it, but you see, that is the controversy that's going on. I think a lot of organizations in the world has been copied. EU has been copied. America has been copied. UK has also been copied. Israel has been copied. Many of the other nations, including Italy, has been copied by the decision. That's why they are moving from one place and another. I don't know why there's so much process, and protocol on the issue of breakup of Nigeria, because they really want on most of the things we are seeing today.
What do you think is one of the options that Limor gave to, because a lot of people are expecting that should be one of the solutions.
If that option is being kept secret, I don't know, but the international community of the world are rejecting that report of Limor of coexistence, based on this thing. I do not know whether the other options they have, that has not been made official, includes American intervention to peaceful breakup of Nigeria. And most people are saying already that the president of the American military here is not to engage in any form of fight with whatever, or Boko Haram or whatever, but their presence here is when America now decides that what they're going to do possibly to break up Nigeria, that this presence of American military will actually be a stabilizing force in case there is going to be any uprising against the American decision on Nigeria, because a lot of Northerners have already seen Nigeria as an Islamic nation, and that is not correct the way it is now.
Thank you.